You are a high-rise window cleaner, strapped into a harness with two ropes that are the only reason you're not falling hundreds of meters to the street below. The first thing you notice up here is how the wind never stops. It doesn't just hit your face, it pulls at your body, jerking you away from the building until your boots scrape uselessly against the smooth glass. Your whole body sways in the open air, your weight hanging on a system of clips and pulleys that creak and rattle above your head. Below, the city is so far away it doesn't even feel real. Streets look like cracks in a model, cars no bigger than beetles sliding between them. You can't hear the traffic, just a low rush of air past your helmet and the occasional distant siren that disappears before you can place it. The rope hums against the harness and slaps the wall every time a gust changes direction. That sound blends with the faint ticking of metal from the descender, a constant reminder that every noise up here matters. Sunlight flashes off the glass and blinds you for a second, making you blink hard while your eyes water inside the helmet. Your stomach tightens from the height, a deep twisting feeling that makes your legs want to lock even though you have to keep them bent and braced. You reach for the squeegee, the leather of your gloves stiff with dried soap from earlier jobs, and drag a clean line down through a layer of grit and dust. Dirty water runs along the edge and drips toward the street, and you make sure to clip the bucket to your belt so it doesn't turn into a falling weapon. A sudden gust spins you halfway around, your boots slipping just enough to scrape the glass with a loud squeal. The scrubber handle knocks the pane, a hollow thud that echoes inside your chest, and your other hand clamps the rope without thinking. For a fraction of a second, the squeegee slips in your grip, and your pulse spikes. You steady yourself, but the thought hits like a punch. One broken clip, one bad knot, one mistake, and this job ends with you hitting the ground so fast you'll never see it coming. You get to the building long before most people have even arrived for work, but instead of walking through the front door, you head straight for the roof. The gear is heavy and awkward, ropes coiled like thick snakes over your shoulder, harness straps clinking with every step. The freight elevator takes you most of the way, but the last stretch is a narrow metal stairwell where every step echoes, and you can already hear the wind pushing against the rooftop door above. When you shove it open, the air hits hard, carrying the cold smell of metal and oil from the rigging. Up here there's no safety rail, just open space and the drop waiting on all sides. You pull on your gloves and feel sweat building instantly inside them, a bad sign before you've even started. The harness digs into your hips as you tighten each strap and check the buckles, running your fingers along the ropes to make sure they're free of frays or cuts. The pulley above rattles with every gust, the sound sharp enough to make you look up more than once. Your training was short and clean on paper. Clip here, not there, always keep your weight in the harness. But the first step over the edge erases every diagram you've seen. A veteran passes you, his own ropes already set, and stops just long enough to say it in a tone that's half warning, half joke. The wind is the real boss here. You clip in, lean back, and feel the pull of the ropes take your weight. Behind you, there's solid concrete. In front of you, nothing but glass, air, and the possibility that today is the day your equipment decides to fail. You start the descent, boots planted against the glass, knees bent just enough to absorb the sway as you work your way down. One hand holds the squeegee, the other manages the rope, shifting your weight a few inches at a time. It is the same motion over and over, scrub, pull, wipe, shift. The repetition should make it feel routine, but up here, routine is a lie. Every move has to be exact. Every tool clipped to your harness has to be locked in. A loose rag or a small screwdriver is not just lost equipment. From this height, it can punch through a windshield or kill someone instantly on the sidewalk. You think about that every time you unclip something, double checking before you move on. The weather turns every shift into a different kind of punishment. In winter, your fingers burn inside the gloves, knuckles stiff, water freezes into the glass if you do not move fast enough. In summer, the sun reflects off the windows and cooks you from both sides, sweat soaking into your harness until it chafes. The wind never leaves. It slides around corners, snakes between towers, and slams into you when you least expect it. You remember watching a coworker named Diaz fight to stay in place when a gust caught him mid-swipe. It lifted him off his boots, swinging him away from the wall, and slammed him back hard enough that you heard the impact even through your helmet. His radio crackled as he called for a pull, and the team on the roof hauled him in 1 meter at a time until he was clear. You laughed about it later, but you could see the bruises on his ribs. Up here, the smallest change in wind, the tiniest slip in grip, can turn a simple pane of glass into a fight for your life. After the first hour, your legs start to feel heavy, the muscles in your calves and thighs tightening from holding the same bent position against the wall. Your lower back throbs from leaning out just far enough to reach the edges of each pane. The harness digs into your hips and thighs with every shift of your weight, leaving deep red marks you will still see when you get home. Your wrists ache from gripping the squeegee handle, and the burn in your shoulders builds with every stroke. A slow fire that never really goes away until you are back on solid ground. The physical pain is constant, but it is the mental strain that eats at you. No matter how many times you check your gear, there is always the thought that something could fail. A rope worn thinner than you realize a clip that looks fine until it is underload a pulley that jams without warning. Everyone in this line of work knows the story from a few years back, when a winch seized halfway down one of the tallest towers in the city. 2 cleaners were left hanging in midair, their rigs swaying wildly as the wind funneled between the buildings. People on the ground filmed them, the footage showing their platform tilting and bouncing like a toy. Rescue crews took nearly 3 hours to reach them, the men strapped in and clinging to the ropes the entire time. By the time they were brought in, their hands were locked in the claws from gripping the cables, their bodies shaking uncontrollably. That incident is why you never trust the quiet moments up here. Even when nothing is wrong, your mind is waiting for the sound of metal catching or the snap of a line that means your luck has run out. The most dangerous thing that happens to you in this job is not the wind or the height. It is when your body stops reacting to them. After weeks of working in the air, the fear dulls and you start moving without thinking. You clip in automatically, lean back without double checking, reach for tools without looking. That is when the real danger sets in. Complacency is what kills. The gear does not help either. Sometimes you show up to a site and the ropes have frayed spots you can feel under your gloves. Carabiners creak when you twist them, and the winch cables have rust marks where rain has eaten the metal. The company calls it wear within acceptable limits, but up here, every scratch and squeak is another reminder of what could fail. Everyone in the trade knows the story of the man who went over on the East Tower. He was halfway down, clear sky, steady wind, when the secondary line snapped. The main rope followed a heartbeat later. They said he never screamed, just dropped straight to the pavement. That story gets told to every new hire, not to scare them away, but to drill into them that safety lines are only safe until they are not. Once, while packing up after a job, you saw a retired rope hanging in the equipment room, the fibers at the end whipped apart and blackened from friction. You ran your hand over it and thought about how many times that rope had been someone's lifeline. The sight leaves a cold pit in your stomach because you know that any day, any shift, the rope in your hands could end up looking the same. You work a job where the horror stories are not myths. Every year, dozens of window washers die from falls that would make most people's skin crawl. OSAA reports at least 28 serious window washing incidents in the last 5 years, and 11 of those were fatal. From 2022 to 2023, 7 fatalities occurred just in the United States. Nearly all caused by falls from elevation. You know some of the names. In Boston, a few months ago, a 32-story fall killed a colleague while he was preparing to work. In New York, decades ago, 4 cleaners died when their scaffold collapsed at the Equitable Life building, still a cautionary tale passed down to every new hire. Closer to now in San Francisco, a window washer detached from his platform on a 19-story building and dangled until fellow workers and firefighters saved him. He walked away with only minor injuries, but that moment etched itself into your mind. One of the most haunting cases is from New York in 2007. Brothers Edgar and Alcides Moreno were on a platform, 47 floors up, when a faulty cable gave way. Edgar was thrown clear and died. Alcides survived with multiple severe injuries, and OSHA investigators concluded the entire tragedy was preventable if only safety protocols had been followed. Every day, you fall asleep knowing that these stories are possible. You are not dealing in theory. You are dancing on a rope above the world. And these names, these figures, they could just as easily become your own. Routine, familiarity. This happens only to others. Those are your real enemies. Some dangers are so rare you almost forget they exist until they happen right in front of you. Birds don't care that you are clinging to a wall hundreds of meters up. When they hit the ropes, the impact can throw your balance off just enough to make your body swing. Storms roll in faster than anyone expects. Dark clouds closing the light in minutes. Wind pressure doubling and rain turning every movement into a fight against slipping. Then there are the stories about the glass itself. Panels the size of doors can come loose without warning. The sealant failing after years of heat and cold. When they go, they don't crack. They fall whole, like guillotines, and you pray you are not in their path. You had your own close call once. You were halfway down the north side of a tower, steady day, nothing unusual, when the winch jerked hard and dropped you a few centimeters. It was nothing to anyone else, but to you it felt like the ground had been pulled away. Your heart hammered so hard, you thought it would break the harness before the ropes did. You locked both hands on the lines and froze, waiting for a voice on the radio to tell you it was safe. The work continued after that, but every minute you kept expecting the next drop to be the last. Even when you finally stepped back onto the roof, unclipped, and walked toward the stairwell, your legs shook like you were still swaying. Hours later, at home, you could feel the ghost of that movement, the memory of air rushing past you, and the quiet thought that next time, it might not stop where it did. For all the risk, the money barely scratches the surface of what this job takes from you. You could make more working indoors on the ground, without the constant possibility of falling hundreds of meters to your death. There is no hazard pay that comes close to covering the weight in your chest every time you lean back over the edge. No real recognition from the people whose view you keep clear. They see the skyline without smudges and think it happens by itself. Most never even glance out to watch you work, and when they do, it's a brief look. The way you might look at a passing cloud before they go back to whatever is on their screen. There is no glamour here, no applause, no handshake waiting at the end of the shift. You unclip from the ropes with sore shoulders, your back stiff, your hands raw from the friction of gloves that never quite fit right. The harness has left deep grooves in your hips and thighs, marks that stay for hours. Your clothes smell of soap and metal and the faint stink of polluted wind. You head home carrying every ounce of the day in your body, but the job does not leave you when you step through your door. Even in bed, in the quiet, you still feel it. The rocking motion of your weight in the harness, the subtle sway as if you're still pinned against the side of the building. The hum of the ropes and the whistle of wind stay in your ears long after the shift is over. Your dreams are filled with the view from above. The ground a distant patchwork that gets closer in flashes you can't control. You wake with your heart pounding, unsure for a second if you are in your own bed or dangling in the air again. And in that blur between sleep and reality, one truth remains as sharp as the edge of the roof. Up there, one mistake is all it takes for the ropes to go slack, the air to rush past you, and your only choice left is scream or don't.